Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sword and Tea, a TTRPG chat show right here on Sword and Key, where we talk with people, creators, especially in the TTRPG community, whether they be game designers, game writers, artists, musicians, all are welcome here. This is a cozy chat show where we talk about new and exciting things in the TTRPG community, but the coziness is always one of the most important things. So, highly encourage you to have a cozy beverage, perhaps a cozy blanket, and snuggle up. And while you're doing it, if you have any questions about the game we're talking about today or the game designer we are talking to today, feel free to post those in the Twitch chat. If you are watching this later or you are not immediately have access to the Twitch chat, you are always also welcome to post questions on the Sword and Tea Discord, Sword and Key rather Discord, where we do have a Sword and Tea channel where you can post questions there. So. With that said, I am Derek Sword. I use he, him pronouns. I am your interviewer for today, your host for Sword and Tea, and I am joined by Contagonist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here. It is good fun to be on. How are things going?
Things are going well. I hope the same is can be said for you. We're going to be discussing Stars Go Cold today. So that is a game that is currently in open beta. I know we were talking a little bit before stream about future plans for that. I'm really excited to discuss those. Before we get into Stars Go Cold, just some stuff to get out of the way. This is a Sword and Key stream. You can find all of Sword and Key stuff at beacons.ai/Sword and Key. You can find all of our links. We have our socials there, Instagram and Blue Sky. We have our Discord link right up at the top if you'd like to hang out with, honestly, biased, but a pretty great community. Talk about cool games like this one with some really great people. We also have links on beacons to some of our charitable organizations. We have some evergreen ones. We also have some Pallies, which is a tool that we use to tip some of our players for some other games. So if you like or even love what we do, please check those out. We also have links to some of our affiliates. We have three amazing affiliates right now. Hit Point Press, they're great. You know who they are. They make tons of TTRPG stuff. We have an affiliate link for them. We have discount codes for Eldritch Foundry, who make custom minis, as well as an affiliate link for a discounted not VTT, but 3D printing license. So if you want to get a 3 month VT, again, I keep saying VTT. If you want to get 3 month 3D printing subscription for only $19.99, you can use our affiliate link to do so for that. Um, and then we also have code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase with Long Dog Dice. Jen with Long Dog Dice makes incredible dice sets. You really can't go wrong. There are some official Sword and Key dice there from our ongoing nautical campaign, Horizon's Call. The D6 has the Sword and Key logo on it. It's pretty great. Check all of that out, and I will do even more of that stuff here at the end. But I want to talk about the game we're discussing today, Stars Go Cold. So, Contagonist, before we even get to that, for people that might be seeing you for the first time, that might not have played Stars Go Cold or anything else, I guess who are you? How did you come to TTRPGs in your life? What's your journey with that been? And then maybe even beyond that, how'd you get started with writing TTRPGs?
Years and years ago, back whenever I was growing up in New Mexico, on a military town, I kind of joined in with some local airmen, and whenever they stage an invite to play a Rifts campaign that they've been in, and they were looking around for some new players, so I decided to give it a shot and fell in love with role-playing games ever since, even though I might have distanced myself from Rifts as a game system quite a bit, as as I played more different games, and the design space for role-playing games have evolved over the past couple of years, decades even. I can now pretty well recognize that Rifts as a game system isn't that great, even though I deeply love it for all the adventures that I had with my comrades, and yeah, and good times that I had and the world building therein. But yeah, it's in regards to game design, um even whenever I was initially playing with Rips, whenever I was a teenager, I had started with kind of like customizing and designing my own modules, and like alternate rule systems. One of the first ones that I kind of really formalized was this aerial mech combat engine, which is based off of the an anime called Eureka 7, where you would have like these mechs on flying surfboards, going and carrying out these really interesting battles, which are a mix of kind of like surfing in the air and also, melee and like close in range combat. And so I made a system which combined balancing, building momentum to make attacks while also staying maneuverable enough to evade attacks as well. And the players got a lot of fun out of that. And so it's always been something that I've been tinkering with in the background, just like making alternate kind of rule sets, character design things, modules, and what have you, for just the various games I've been playing over the years, even though my main creative endeavors have been more focused on writing and narrative, short stories, and what have you. But it was only recently, over the last couple of years, that I kind of sat down and thought, wait a minute, I kind of have a lot of game design stuff going on here, and I've also been doing a lot of writing. Why don't I start combining this and start making my own stuff? So I initially made a full campaign setting and module for the Lancer role-playing game, which is the mech tactics game made by Massive Press,
Yeah.
called Break Glass in Case of Fire, which centers around the players being the mechanized cavalry mech pilots vanguard of a people's revolution against a fascist regime that might have discovered a way to bring people back from the dead and are using that to their political advantage. And so that was a module that I kind of made. There was an initial idea that I turned into like this huge 6 mission module with like multiple different endings and branching paths and so on. So that's available up on my HIO page if you're at all interested in checking that out. But it was after that I kind of reflected and sat down and considered some of the systems that I had initially built for that and started extrapolating further and going, well, what if I made my own system entirely? And so I went ahead and did that. And that's my current project as it stands, Stars Go Cold.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you have very clear steps to how you got to Scars Go Cold, and very much like you were saying, I can see how the building blocks kind of fit together as I'm reading through the open beta. Something to mention about that: the open beta is available right now for download on your itch page. So if anybody out there is looking for it, it's contagonist.itch.io/stars go cold with dashes between the words, and honestly, it's pretty cool reading through this. I really like the premise behind it, and in general, it seems like a really great addition to the kind of like I don't know if dystopian is fair. It feels like it has that kind of like tinge to a little bit, the futuristic, maybe even intergalactic kind of dystopian revolution sort of thing. Without me saying exactly what it is, since you're the one that wrote it, what is your elevator pitch for Stars Go Cold for people that might be coming to it for the first time? What's the shorthand for it?
Stars Go Cold is a science fiction role playing war game in a twilight future. In it, players take on the roles of cybernetic military commanders leading their hand picked units of freedom fighters, power armored infantry, super soldiers, and combat vehicles to wage wars and other military engagements in a very distant but uncanny future.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the first sentence that you have posted on the itch page is, I think, evocative. Just to start out with, that the tumor emperor is dead at last. Great title. Um, yeah, a lot is thrown like immediately at you, and I love that it does kind of like jumpstart you into this world's like, listen, nothing's good. The revolution's happening. What side are you going to be on? And maybe even that side isn't going to be the good one. Maybe there are no good sides. Is kind of the general vibe that it feels. I know you mentioned some of the like inspiration points that got you to Stars Go Cold. You mentioned Eureka 7, which I had never heard of. I googled it. I think I'm gonna check it out. That is really cool to have mechs on flying surfboards. Um, are there any other inspiration points you pulled from in media, or anything that like really drove you? I know you talked about like having the Lancer module and building from that and building from that. But any other big drivers that you didn't mention already that would have led you to this game in particular?
Oh, wow. In regards to the actual gameplay and play space and how the rules kind of like flow and function, a good touchstone, a couple of good touchstones for that would be Advance Wars and XCOM, especially like the latest one, Enemy Unknown, and XCOM 2. And also like Lancer and Lancer Battle Group for both, like command on that more military sci-fi angle, and Lancer Battle Group specifically in that you're kind of playing a military commander as you go through these campaigns and operations. In regards to kind of like what really inspired the universe itself, it's kind of like a mix of dystopian and also utopian fiction and political thriller, military sci-fi, of course, and tech noir, which is kind of like this overlooked cousin of cyberpunk that actually is a lot of stuff that's considered cyberpunk, like Blade Runner and like Dark City, even, or The Matrix and Terminator, what have you, often have more of a foot in the tech noir genre than otherwise. But generally, that angle of technology being like this omnipresent and in the hands of power, malevolent force in people's lives, and then us trying to survive and repurpose it for our own purposes, but with a more, how should I put this? Less flashy and more deliberate kind of direction to go towards. And in regards to inspiration points for that, I did mention, Blade Runner and the Terminator. Some other really good inspiration points would be like the Pat Labor movies, specifically Pat Labor 2, Ghost in the Shell, especially Standalone Complex is a very strong inspiration point for that. We also have the Bungie Halo series, Halo 1 through 3, ODST, and Reach, particularly, which is a major inspiration point for the dimension of the game, which handles the alien and other extraterrestrial and rather extra-human entities that you're going to be coming across in the game.
Awesome. Amazing answer. Yeah. So it seems like, we've got a game where it's a role-playing hybrid role-playing war game, which I think people might have already connotations to that, and I think this game might subvert those expectations a little bit in a really good way. So I definitely want to talk about that. But we've already touched on that there is this intergalactic conflict, that it has a lot of sides to it, and now we've also introduced extraterrestrials, which I think is great. So with the creation of Stars Go Cold and making it into a war game, I think that terminology especially has expectations set to it, right? I think when a lot of people think of war games, they think of Warhammer 40K. They think of like the actual tabletop games.
Mhm.
So with that kind of to that, what are some of the things that people will need to play this? Are we going to need minis, or is this dice and theater of the mind? What's the concept for that?
Minis are entirely optional. In regards to the things that are strictly necessary is you just need some kind of square grid that you could put down tokens representing friendly and enemy units on. Something to record like what your basic stats are, a copy of the rule book in 2d6. And something to notate like what kind of terrain each space is, and you basically have everything you need to play foundationally. And you could just build up from there to be as elaborate or detailed as the resources and in talent and ability that in time that you want to put into it.
That's
If you
great.
want, you could play this game with bullet casings in the dirt, all the way up to elaborate miniatures in a fully realized and modeled battle space on a table, or even in in the virtual sim like a Roll20 or Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, I appreciate the harkening back to perhaps your own TTRPG origins, because I know that there's definitely some people in our community, and there's people that come to TTRPGs for the first time while serving in the military, and that's kind of like, with all the downtime, what are you going to do? There's plenty of hobbies, vices, and everything else to fall into, but I think TTRPGs are a great way. But how are you going to get all the resources? Who are you going to use? What's around? That's really great. I also do love that having only 2d6 again to differentiate from some of these like massive tabletop war games where it's you have a backpack full of dice and even that's not enough. Um, Great. So when it comes to gameplay of Stars Go Cold, is there? So we're playing a military commander. There are troops under that command. Um, is there character creation involved? What does that look like for your specific like what you're controlling in the game?
So, character creation centers around you primarily creating your commander character, a given player's commander character. These are oftentimes going to be military commanders either in the chain of command of a state power or a mercenary company, or in a revolutionary group that has achieved sufficient mass popular legitimacy and so on to build a revolutionary army. And aside from, you knowing from the GM and what kind of campaign type you're playing, establishing those conceits of, who you're fighting for, where you're fighting at, and so on and so forth. The thing that you start off with after you naming your character is the Razor. The Razor is basically your character's personal vendetta in this galaxy and who they have it in for or the future that they're fighting for. After that, you go and decide what kind of person your character is in regards to like their physical instantiation. They can be just a biological human, which in this setting is already a very advanced transhuman compared to how we exist currently, in the present.
Mhm.
There's also, you can be constructed, which is you're a robot with a firmware mind, or you can be a coded artificial intelligence that is instantiated into a physical body and fight, alongside your comrades that way. And then after that, you could choose your augmentation suite, like how your specific commander is cybernetically augmented and enhanced. You could be given enhanced strength, scanning and tracking capabilities for improved marksmanship. You can even be have a the Puppet Master suite, which is an electronic warfare and command platform that allows you to basically take over the bodies and inhabit the troops that you lead directly from a remote location. And then
Interesting.
you could choose like what their background is and training, like were they a scientist beforehand, a laborer, an academic, maybe a patrician from the Aracombe world of Aria, and what they particularly study, and also their weapon of choice, their kind of custom weapon above and beyond their service weapons that they're issued.
Okay. And I see you've got three things for that. You got short range, medium range, and long range for that. Still sticking with the futuristic, the cyberpunk or tech noir sort of vibe of things, but also with this like futuristic gritty war sort of thing as well. I really don't like the term grimdark. I think it gets overused a lot, and I'm not sure this game necessarily falls into it. But I can see that there might be threads that might lead into it that might be optional for folks as well. Again, I'm stuck on Warhammer right now. That's just where my
Mhm.
brain's at because I have a couple of friends that are into it. So whatever I see, like, oh yeah, futuristic intergalactic kind of warfare, that's the first thing, and I have to pull myself away from it. So I apologize if I keep bringing it up. That's my own nonsense.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely. I played Warhammer and love the setting to various degrees. I'm kind of making deliberate steps away from it and decisions to make something new.
yeah,
One of the things that kind of brought me out of Warhammer was that the galaxy of Warhammer 40,000 is this shitty place full of awful people where the only thing you could really hope for is just to die quickly.
right.
With making Stars Go Cold, I wanted to make a universe worth fighting for and people worth fighting beside. And even though things are and can get dark, through the solidarity of your comrades and the might of the proletariat working behind you, you can overcome them and make a better future.
That's really great. I like that. I think that's something that can get left out of dystopian games is the concept that dystopians don't have to be permanent, that there can be hope at the other end. And much to the point of some of the pop culture touchstones that you had mentioned, like The Matrix, where it is this very, very, deeply upsetting setting when you do think about it, but it does have this kind of like almost hopeful ending. Yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It might not be the brightest, it might not be guaranteed, but there is something more to it. And I think that's really, I appreciate that being added to games like this. Um, Looking at the character creation and everything, you've got a lot of really great options in here. Some really, again, evocative language. I always appreciate that in TTRPG writing when just the name of something. Again, the razor is really great for something that is that thing that pushes your commander a little bit further. The thing that cuts deepest, I think, is really great. And some of the names of some of the other options are, again, very evocative. And then the flavor text or the mechanical text also does kind of lend more credence to them. I am noticing, because we had talked about how you've got this intergalactic conflict, there's extraterrestrials involved as well, that extraterrestrials, sorry, are not listed in character creation options. Is that something that might be coming up later, or is that intentional to the setting?
It is intentional to the setting in that I wanted to front and have focused in the scope of the game and the narrative that this is a very human conflict and you're struggling primarily against humans. In this setting, the people are, or the monsters can be people and the aliens are stranger. It's not as simple as having a some kind of space orc that you can offload all of your aggression and baggage onto
Hmm.
without
To
any kind of
dehumanize,
consideration,
yeah.
exactly, without any kind of dehumanization. On the contrary, I made it so that the main enemies that you're going to be facing and struggling against, and the most immediately consequential ones, are human and are the products of the larger social systems and material conditions that they came up in. You're primarily going to be fighting against the legionaries of this imperialist empire, or the mercenaries hired by the corporations that feast off of the world's surrounding. In
Yeah.
regards to the aliens that you would be running into, the closest one to being like a rival stellar power and just spreading and exploiting the rest of the galaxy and moving in on your territory are a race of sentient trees, and you're just fighting their drones.
Okay. All right. That's great. I really like that too, that there is this I think that's a great concept, that there is so much more out there. Again, I think describing them as the stranger is really great, because it does feel like they're just beyond where we're willing to reach. They're right there. We might be like meeting them every now and then, but we're humans so consumed with our own bullshit that we can't stop the fighting to even like bridge to these other beings of sentience. We're so consumed by our own constant conflict. I think that's really interesting. Okay, so we talked about character creation. I know that we also need to put together a platoon. And then we can kind of talk more about some of the things that come after that. But for general gameplay, we did discuss that this is a 2d6 system. There's also the option for minis, or at least to have the gridded system with some tokens. What does gameplay look like for 4 Stars Go Cold?
The gameplay just fundamentally across the entire scale, from both the individual scale where you're just playing your commander to the combat scale where you're commanding troops of infantry and tanks and mechs and so on, is you just roll 2d6. You apply some kind of bonus that's typically like right in front of you against a target number that starts at 7 and just becomes more difficult and increases up to like 8, 9, or 10 or something like that. And if you roll doubles, that's a critical success. If it's a success, critical failure if it's a failure, and that's pretty much it. In the On the individual scale, whenever you want to do something, you say what you want to do. You see if you have like an applicable like background stat or some kind of tool or other circumstance on hand, and then you get like a +1 or a +2 to the roll, and then you just roll. And if it beats 7, typically you'll accomplish the task. If it's a little bit more difficult, like this requires some kind of esoteric knowledge or some kind of tools that you don't have on hand, it'll be more difficult, like a 8 or 9 or something like that.
Okay.
And this goes into how the engagements work is whenever you have a like an infantry unit that wants to attack another infantry unit, you roll 2d6 and you just compare it to the target unit's defense, factor in if they're in cover or concealment, and beat a defense that's typically around 7 or 8, but increases if they're in cover or have something else like a smoke grenade or a visual spectrum refraction field around them or something like that.
Yeah. So with that in mind and seeing how this is a game that does have like the conflict as the central crux, what does a table typically look like for you? Do you consider this a one-person game, two-person game? Is this like a table of four or more? What is Stars Go Cold kind of structured for?
Stars Go Cold is structured for a table, typically being one game master who elucidates the scenario and controls the opposing force. And the players are all typically like around lieutenant scale rank or commensurate responsibility, and each control a platoon of military units, typically between 2 to 4 squads, and together they players form a company facing off against the opposing force that the game master correspondingly also designs on typically company versus company scale engagements.
Okay, so with the small table then facing off, is Stars Go Gold primarily just conflict based, moving from conflict to conflict? Is there structured things for downtime or for the I guess the more in-depth like role-playing stuff that some people kind of look for? Because I know there's absolutely the community for wargaming as well, which I think a lot of games kind of try to mix but lean a little more heavily into role play. Just curious on where in the Venn diagram Stars Go Cold kind of sits.
Mechanically, it leans a little bit more heavily towards the war game end of things, but there is a lot of structure that incorporates the role-playing aspects of embodying and impersonating your commander in the game space and in the narrative. That's primarily through the gameplay loop of the operation system. The operation is basically a self-contained mission where where the players are given a specific military objective, like say, destroy this anti-aircraft gun that's in the next province, and or discover and raid this neo-apexate bunker over in this city. After you discover the location and so on. The players are given a briefing by their commanding officer or other authority and legitimating power. They choose some manner of battle plan or course of action that they're going to take to gather additional resources, assets, and advantages. And then they go from engagement to engagement, intercepting or being intercepted by and destroying enemy platoons or enemy companies trying to stop them as they move on to try to carry out their objective and either complete or fail that mission. And in that, there is coded in sections for role playing at the start of the operation, in the points leading up to a given combat. And also especially afterwards in the camp phase, which is after the combat ends and the stress has been built up in your individual units, and there are numerous casualties and so on. As you're treating them and recovering from the battle, you're also engaging in these little episodic vignettes to dissipate the amount of stress that your commander and your units have built up in combat. And these, depending on the amount of stress you're building, you're removing from your individual companies. It could be like more lighter fare vignettes, like say a merchant or a vendor approaches your convoy and wants to exchange some media DVDs for maybe some like extra supplies or something like that. Or you could go into negotiations with some civilians that are trying to acquire some battlefield salvage to repair their habitats on like this desolate moon that you're fighting over, and other things like that. Whereas if you try to do like bleed off like a lot of stress that's been built up through using special abilities or what have you, um, this leads to more serious little role-playing vignettes, which are centered around your character making some kind of call with consequences. Like, say, one of the locals is accused of spying on your formation. One of the, or like somebody even comes to your, company asking for medical treatment, and it looks like from the caliber of the bullet removed from like their leg or something that this might have been shot from somebody in your platoon. And you have to like make a call to deal with these issues as they occur.
All right. So kind of intense stuff. It is not just you know, shoot, fight, move to the next, shoot, fight. You've got like this kind of in-depth, like the horrors of war. Not exactly what I'm looking for. I don't think we're necessarily looking at horrors, but like the stressors. I think that's the phrase you're using. The stressors of war, the stressors of having to deal with other people in this high intense conflict environment, and that people aren't always going to be good people, even the people that have under your command, or the having two bad choices be your only two choices, and trying to find the lesser of two evils. I think that's really one of the beautiful things about role play in darker settings like this, that do still have that kind of like shining light of reaching for to be better, to reach for better, and still like having to deal with everything along the way as you reach for it. That's really great. Um, for the platoon itself, because we mentioned that a second ago, for building your platoon, what does that kind of look like? Actually, even before that, I'm sorry, is there a leveling system in this? So you mentioned that you characters probably start out as lieutenants. So the two-parter I'm poorly structuring here is, do you level up and gain more troops in your platoon? What does that kind of look like? And then what does your platoon look like maybe starting out and then building from there?
So let's see here. The leveling system is primarily based on grade, which is the experience track. Every time you successfully complete an operation, you increase in grade. You start at 0, and it could go at the moment up to 5. That serves two functions. One is the grade is just a pool of points that you could throw onto a roll. Like if you're grade 3 or something like that, you can add a +1 to a roll, or a +2 to a roll, or even +3 all onto a single roll. And that refreshes at the end of every operation. So just like a nice little general use pool for bonus points that you could throw into something. The
Hmm.
other thing this does is whenever you create your commander, you select a discipline, or doctrine rather. And the doctrine is basically what type of unit your commander specializes in leading and using. These are for, your general purpose infantry, your guerrilla fighters, mechs, tanks, shock troopers, what have you. And as you increase in grade, you unlock a basic stat increase, like an increase to that unit's HP, to unit speed or accuracy or something like that. And you also unlock special abilities like new pushes, which are special abilities that you could use, which in exchange for getting that special ability, it gains stress, and or other special abilities which could decrease the cost for some equipment that you equip onto that unit. And then like whenever you reach grade 5 in your doctrine, you could also unlock very special and unique alternate units, which can be used instead of or alongside the ones of your doctrine. Like if you get to rank 5 and your doctrine is for mechs, you could basically unlock access to a prototype mech, which is functionally it's a Gundam. You get to command a Gundam in the battlefield, and its special ability is that you can equip any kind of advanced weaponry that you want on it
Hmm.
without needing to have like the logistics level that would grant you access to it normally.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you can build up and maybe to the point of like the option at least of freedom fighters, this concept of the more successful we are, the higher our levels of success as we go forward, but also the higher level of challenges that we're going to encounter as well. We get cooler stuff. Maybe we're coming by it, from one way or another, but the concept of freedom fighters working their way up to having a mech is great. It's always one of my favorite kind of story arcs. Excuse me. Sorry. Um, for so we have our commander, we have our platoon. We've kind of talked about gameplay a lot, and then both in combat and out of combat. What are some of the enemies? I know you've mentioned a little bit that there's mercenaries, conflicting armies as well. But in the setting, which is I think is a really cool setting, what are the primary antagonists that we're facing up against?
So the four major powers in the Stars Go Cold setting, which is a region of a galaxy, region of a distant galaxy called Amnesia Space, is the two big superpowers are the Auric Empire, or officially called the Auric Republic, and the Omnistellar Union. These are two factions which emerged from a just drag out apocalypse scale interstellar war against a third faction called the Instrumentalist Apexate. They kind of initially joined together to defeat them just because they were so nightmarish. But after the end of the war, the Auric Empire decided to press their luck and further try to conquer more worlds from the Omnistellar Union afterwards. The Omnistellar Union stopped them and established an armistice, and so the emergent Cold War between the Omnistellar Union and the Auric Empire had basically been the status quo for the setting for the past like 400 or 500 years. Um, Now things have shifted. The Auric Empire has created capitalism and reintroduced it to the interstellar space, and the major hypercorporations, which have grown out of that, are making their own plays for power and taking over either de facto or de jure entire worlds for themselves and making a bid for control and hegemony in the wake of the now collapsing Auric Empire. And now recently, there's a fourth faction called the Majestic, who is a cross between a cult of personality, an artificially intelligent virus, and a despotic semi-utopia. The Majestic is this personality construct of a woman who is searching out and basically rescuing from destitution the most alienated and dejected people across the galaxy and harnessing them into her own frontline supporters and shock troopers of a emerging stellar power called the Glass Throne.
Okay, yeah, I was reading through a lot of this with the setting itself, and like I said, for honestly, a free open beta, you have what is this, 123 pages? I mean, it's pretty hardy for what is essentially, just something to play test right now. I mean, you put obviously a lot of work into this, but the setting itself, I can really see a lot of time went into this, and a lot of it. I mean, your naming conventions feel both unique and evocative. The setting absolutely has those threads that tie back to a lot of the pop culture touchstones that you mentioned before, while still setting aside as well and standing on their own. And I think that's really tough to do as somebody who's done that as well. I recognize the effort that goes in to go, does this sound too close to this other thing? You always have to like go like, is this going to make people just think that I was copying off this thing? I wasn't, but you have to Google things. So does this mean something else? But you have these very interesting places, people's points of conflict, this really interesting history that goes into it as well. I know that there is, I mean, quite a bit to the overall setting, and I know we've touched on a decent bit of it already. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of like say about that? I never want to say everything that's in the PDF, even though people can access it for themselves for free, but I always encourage them to do that. But anything else in the setting specific, since you did put so much time into it, that you would like to spotlight on it?
I did gloss over a little bit on the protagonist faction that I mentioned, or quote unquote protagonist faction. They're the closest thing to a hegemonic good guy force in the setting, and they are the Omnistellar Union. As stated, the Omnistellar Union was a alliance of separate, solar systems and polities that banded together to fight off the instrumentalist Apexate invasion. And they're a initially started as just kind of like this formal defense alliance, but after they signed the armistice and signed and established the armistice and their own borders in opposition to the Ark Empire, they kind of sat around together and looked at each other and went, well, what do we do from here? And so they kind of deliberately embarked on a plan of making a more egalitarian and justice and equality orient and democratic society and superstructure in that corner of space, and basically built a place that's approaching utopia. Um, and they do this through a variety of means, primarily around just trying to minimize, if not outright eliminate, class distinctions as much as possible, distributing and automating as much labor as possible in order so that the average workday in the Omnistellar Union is only 4 hours long, and they only work 4 days a week. And up until the war started, they were debating decreasing that down to 3 hours a day. It's just a pretty damn good place to be. And in that amount of just time and resources that they devote to the common good, this profoundly prosperous society has kind of grown up in its wake. And far from it detracting from their defense capability, it actually increased it for two reasons. One, when everybody kind of sitting around and doing what they want, a substantial amount of people just go and continue to design and improve and iterate upon technology. And part of those technology is going to be weapon systems, which have gotten kind of strange and all the more effective for it. And the other one is that the sheer fact of their dramatically improved living conditions compared to the rest of Amnesia space, especially in compared to the hegemonies of the Ark Empire and the reincorporations, means that there's continuous low-level revolt in all those other polities because they just want a standard of living comparable to that of the OSU.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, has its contemporaries to our real world, absolutely. Where hey, if they can do it, why can't we? Um, I'm seeing that on the PDF in the download, that every page is marked at the top with OSUM eyes only. Is that the Omnistellar Union then? Omnistellar Union Military? Is that what it
Oh
stands
yeah,
for?
yeah,
Okay,
Omnicellular Union Military.
nice. Okay. To that, I like that the PDF has this like simplistic yet also well designed. Like it feels like a military document. Every part of it is to the point. It has the stuff that you need to know. It still does have the flavor text. It is written still really well, but I like that like the pages even have that style to them. I think that's really
That little
fun.
diegetic end to it. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
as you probably saw from my little avatar here, my illustration skills aren't very elaborate. However, I can edit around with some more parametric design elements and pick out some fonts. So I went with that direction with this version.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but you are listed as the primary artist on this as well, and I think the artist is I think the art's great. I mean, it does have kind of that very interesting. I was trying to think of the art style that it reminds me of because it's not gritty, but I think you're a great artist. I think you did a great job. To that point, with you listed, I mean, you like I said, you put a lot of work into this. You're listed as game designer, writer, artist. Who are some of the other folks that, if any, that helped you make Stars Go Cold?
I have a lot of playtesters. Like whenever I get around to making a special thanks to section in a subsequent version, they'll be listed in full. But other than that, and the people who had developed the individual fonts that I've been using in the document, it's been a one-person show.
Amazing. Yeah, and like I said, you can tell that you especially put a lot of work into this. It's great that you have playtesters to reach out to. Um, Stars Go Cold is really, really cool. Like I said, I think there is a lot in this beta test that is otherwise free, although, to everybody watching, be a decent person, go support the itch and support game designers and developers like this. Um, for yourself, Contagonist, is there anything else that you particularly want to spotlight about Stars Go Cold? Anything that you think we might have missed in our conversation, or anything else you're like, I really don't want to end this conversation without saying something about this thing,
Yes, there is. It's not
please.
currently in the extant beta document. However, it is going to be in beta 2.0. I have been writing the rules for these for this upcoming section. I'm very excited to share it. It is going to be the aliens and extra human entities and powers that players are going to get to struggle against in subsequent versions. As mentioned, the probably like the most relatable alien faction is going to be the Crimson Forest. These are kind of like one of the major powers in the galaxy. They are a race of sentient trees that have just been gradually expanding over the galactic plane, gradually terraforming worlds to their liking for the past 1.5 billion years. And they basically just pick out a decent planet, touch down with a seed ship, literally a seed ship, and that is a ship full of seeds and the robots that plant them. And subsequent infrastructure constructing and development apparatuses and so on. But anyway, and they just grow out of the ground and colonize it. And like every one of these Crimson Forest trees are a sapient alien individual. They have a profound degree of cybernetic augmentation, much like humans do. They have to cooperate and quarrel with the other members of the Crimson Forest, just like we humans have to with our own species. And there are even political factions within the Crimson Forest. Like the three major ones are the Nightless, which is a branch of trans arborist Crimson Forest trees, which want to basically create as many Dyson spheres as possible so that they could live in the interior and maximize the amount of solar collection for the purposes of enhancing their own augmented metabolisms and thinking
Yeah,
faster and better and more powerfully.
that makes
Um,
perfect sense. I also
there's
appreciate the
there,
pun of branched, so
yeah,
that's great. Yeah,
englazed
please.
exactly.
Yes, yes.
The Star Drinkers, which are the more quote unquote conservative faction, which just seek to more mundanely expand and terraform the planets that they want to inhabit. And then there's the void routing, which are the more radical transarborist faction, which seek to like expand their own physiologies and the ways that they can live and exist in more interesting directions, like living as colony microscopic organisms or living viruses or thinking viruses or something like that. And they're gradually encroaching now into the amnesia space area where humanity currently resides. The other alien threats are the process, which is the autonomous terraforming, resource extraction, and capital development technology of a long, long dead alien species. And these are just gradually expanding across the galaxy, also terraforming planets, but for colonists that are never going to arrive because they have been dead for billions of years. And so there are these bizarre residences and arcology complexes and theme parks and factories and all these other accoutrements for a species that is dead and dusted, and these bizarre products which have like you don't know what they're going to be used for as a player, but they do have like some useful functions that you can exploit. So this is kind of like my way of introducing mechanics similar to like uh the zone from the Stalker games. And it's like these, bizarre alien artifacts that can be exploited, but they're byproducts and um, exposure cause like and sanity degradation to you and your soldiers the more you use them and encounter them. One of the other alien entities and threats are the Nephilim, which are these ambidimensional aliens which exist for a part of their life cycle in our physical world before they go somewhere else. And the way that you encounter them is you encounter like the various small proto Nephilim creatures and try to survive against them as they like behave and move and congregate and so on, and go through their life cycle, possibly culminating in an entity which can exterminate an entire biosphere. And so, possibly one of the things that you might have to do when you encounter them is try to track them down and eliminate them before they get to that stage. And then there's the really more interesting abstract one, which is just my way of like sliding in like a time loop mechanic, like from Edge of Tomorrow, called the chronophage virus. And what the chronophage virus is that let me get a little bit diegetic here. At the end of the universe, the last remaining infectious disease will evolve the last possible survival trait, the ability to infect backwards through time. And it basically is now jumping from host to host and spreading through populations of aliens and also propelling itself backwards through time in order to survive and propagate. And when a player character winds up infected with the chronophage virus, they get the ability to start rewinding time. But the thing is every time they do this, they also spread the disease, and it also starts decaying their nervous system to the point of potentially killing them. So there's a risk and reward component to exploiting this virus to try and get a tactical advantage or trying to get a cure before it kills you.
Interesting. That's all very, very cool. And you said that's all stuff that you're working on next.
Yes, that's going to be in beta 2.0.
Okay. Well, I guess to segue off of that, then for beta 2.0, for what comes next for Stars Go Cold, what does that look like? It sounds like we have another beta coming soon. What are maybe some steps after that? What can people look forward to with Stars Go Cold?
Beta 2.0, which is going to have a revamped operation system, excuse me, and also the alien systems and some other additional tweaks and so on. That's going to be coming up probably near the end of the year. Um, there'll be another period where I do further play tests, see if anybody else plays it, and get input from them in order to further elaborate and refine it. And then the goal after that, there might be a beta 3.0, who knows? But the ultimate goal for the Stars Go Cold project is going to be to create a fully functional, complete rule set and game book, which will be what I call the field manual. And the field manual is just going to be the full rule book in kind of like the format that the current beta has, and that it's like a very printer friendly thing that you can buy for like about $5 or $10 or something like that off itch, and then you'll have or even I don't know, maybe release it for free or something like that, or and you'll have explicit permission to just print that out or keep it, trade it, exchange it, or what have you for personal use. And after that field manual edition comes out, see what kind of a reception it gets, and then I'll pursue alternate methods for funding a more elaborate, detailed, artfully designed, like full core rule book. Like I might be going through Kickstarter, I might be going through other venues to look about, getting funding for, interior art, layout design, editing, and possibly even like hard copy publishing.
Yeah, okay. I really like that roadmap. Um, I know you mentioned Kickstarter. I know that there's definitely depending on who you ask, there's opinions when it comes to backer kit, Kickstarter. I mean, you have an itch page as well. Um, are you set on Kickstarter? Have you looked into that at all? Just curious if you have opinions on things as well, or if we're still too early in stages for that. That's totally fine as well.
I forgot what it was, but one of my friends had pointed me in the direction of this one company. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, but they have basically a program where you pitch a game design idea to them, and they see if they could find like about 500 or so people who are willing to like back and order it if it gets made. And then if you get that number of people, they'll go ahead and they'll fund like further development of the game and do an initial print run, hand out those initial pre-ordered copies to people, and then also sell it from their own storefronts and what have you. I'm just cannot remember what the name of it is, but I think
Yeah,
it's the P500 program, if I remember correctly.
okay. I don't believe that's been brought up before. Um, I'm gonna look into that because that actually sounds pretty cool.
GMT
P5
Games, that's it. It's GMT
GMT
Games.
games. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more because this is the first time anybody's mentioned that, but that sounds like a really cool concept that yeah, if you can't get the front loaded interest, because that's kind of, I don't know. Kickstarter is maybe putting the cart before the horse on that one. I think that's great. Um, That's really cool. I wish you the absolute best of luck because Stars Go Cold is a really really cool game, and it has I think some things that really set it apart while also having familiarity to draw people in to want to play it. Um, for Stars Go Cold, is there anything else that you think maybe needs to be said about it?
Let's see here. Kind of in going about and designing this, yeah,
Hmm.
played it by ear mostly, and then it gradually started cohering into a firm direction. And that direction that I'm kind of consolidating and now going to put in the rule book as kind of like a guideline for prospective GMs to get into the design space for campaigns and operations, and for the players to kind of like tweak, their character ideas for and get things really into the mood and themes of the things. It's a genre palette. Like, what are the main kind of aspects of this setting, this mental space, the kind of background and where the game is going. The genre palette starts off with, of course, military sci-fi. You're playing soldiers and carrying out military operations, even if you're, irregulars or freedom fighters or what have you. There's elements of tech noir, as I mentioned, in that it's kind of like this dark and moody, but also extremely high-tech setting, which is still really saturated and embedded literally into your own bodies, but it also has a more cohesive political direction than like say cyberpunk, which is oftentimes has anti-authoritarian overtones, but like it seems a little bit more aimless, and this one's a bit more focused and directed. To that end, another part of the palette aspect is political thriller, in that these conflicts are all around political economy, around decisions about like who and what counts as a person, decisions about like who should own the means of production and to what ends should that production be for, to like what do rights do people have in the polities that they find themselves in. It's probably pretty obvious what I think those answers should be.
Right.
But again, those are like things that you could explore in the next part of the genre palette, which is utopia and dystopia. And this is one of the underexplored things, is that oftentimes whenever there's a setting with dystopias in them, that dystopia is oftentimes like just completely totalizing, and there's no horizon outside of that. Whereas in this game, I very deliberately made it so that the dystopias have limits, and so in contrasting to them, there are also utopias. The capacity for things to be better is not only, substantial, they are also extant and something you could actively either fight for or towards. And last on the genre palette, which you probably guessed at, listening about my explanations behind an elaboration on the alien entities and factions, is the cosmic horror aspect. The galaxy in Stars Go Cold is old and it's strange, and humanity has been a part of it for longer than seems obvious. But that's not really going to be a concern in front of you until it becomes one.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. I like the little cliffhanger there. Um, for people that might be encountering Stars Go Cold for the first time, for people that might be bringing it to their tables for the first time, what is some advice that you might have for players, for game runners, for anybody that are having their first experience?
One would be to wait for beta 2.0, because the operation
Fair.
system in that one is going to be much better than
Okay.
the ones that I have here. The other bit of advice would be to Um, hmm. if I would say that it's like think of your favorite war movie and how that's kind of like structured, what the attitude is, and kind of like the directions and plot threads for that, and kind of just base your initial or first campaign on that. Some other recommendations would be actually some unstated inspirations for Stars Go Cold are a pair of podcasts, actually. Specifically, Revolutions by Mike Duncan and Blowback by Noah Colwyn and what was the other guys? He does the music. He's like the Great Varelli on Bandcamp. But yeah, definitely check out the Blowback and the Revolutions podcasts if you want like a good just something you could put on in the background and listen to and kind of incorporate into your thinking whenever you think about how to run a Stars Go Cold campaign. And then just say that it's like, okay, we'll put some cyborgs here and we'll put some aliens here, and then bam, you're done.
Great advice. I love it. Um, Contagonist, thank you so much for bringing Stars Go Cold for chatting with us. Much to the advice that you just gave, while there is the beta test that is available for download right now, it sounds like the next beta test is going to be very soon, relatively soon. So wait for that. But in the meantime, I still recommend downloading, checking out what's there, so you can see the really cool work that has been put in already, and then get the next one when it comes out and see all of the great changes. Um, Contagonist, where can people find more of yourself, more of the work that you do?
You can find me on itch.io as a contagonist.itch.io, if I remember correctly. You
Mhm.
can also find me on Blue Sky, also as Contagonist, where you can find all of my coldest takes and bad posting. and updates on Stars Go Cold as well.
Great. Highly recommend people check out the itch. It sounded like you had break glass in case of fire. The Lancer module, Stars Go Cold, is there as well. Really cool game. I'm actually gonna go check out. I've been eyeing Lancer like in my periphery for a while now. So for looking for modules, I think that might be one that I go check out, and I highly recommend you all check out Contagonist's work as well. Um, Contagonist, again, thank you so much for spending some time and for sharing Stars Go Cold. I'm very excited for what comes next for this game and for for your next beta and for all the next steps. It sounds like you've got a really cool plan laid out for this game.
Yeah, it's been a huge pleasure being on the stream. Thanks for inviting me over and letting me yap about my current special interest.
Always welcome. For anything else, yeah, we'd love to have you back. Um, So yes, thank you to all of you in the audience for joining us for this Sword and Tea. I am Derek Sword. I use he/him pronouns. I have been your host for this particular Sword and Tea. Let's go ahead and do some wrap up stuff. Again, go check out Contagonist on socials on Blue Sky. Check out the itch page. For all of Sword and Key stuff, you can go to beacons.ai/Sword and Key. You can find all of our links in one neat, nice place. Up at the top is the Twitch for Sword and Key. If you're watching this live, you're already there. Go ahead and give us a follow if you haven't already. It's always appreciated. As you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see the YouTube as well. Maybe you're watching this there. Go ahead and give us a follow there too. But also, if you're watching this later on YouTube and you have questions you would like to ask about Stars Go Cold, or questions addressed to Contagonist about writing TTRPGs or next steps for this game, you can always go to the Sword and Key Discord and post them in the Sword and Tea channel there, and we'll make sure that if Contagonist does not see them right away, that the questions get answered as quickly as possible. So to that point, the Discord for Sword and Key is also posted on the beacons, as well as our other socials, Blue Sky and Instagram. So check out all of those links. And as you scroll down a little bit more on beacons, you will see some of our charitable organizations. We have some evergreen ones like Palestine Children's Relief Fund and Canada Campaigns for Independence. We also have Pallies for a few of our games. If you would like to tip our cast and crew who work so very hard to produce many of the TTRPGs you see here on this channel. As you scroll down more than that on the beacons, you will see our affiliate links. We have a number of fantastic affiliates like Eldritch Foundry. They make custom minis, no matter how weird and wild, normal and mild your TTRPG character might be. You can get a mini for them. If you are purchasing a mini from the website, you can use code Sword and Key for 10% off the first purchase. If you are a 3D printing kind of person, then you can actually get a 3D printing subscription for only $19.99 for 3 months. It's a pretty good deal. That is with our affiliate link, so check that out. We're also affiliates with Hit Point Press. They make the Griffin Saddleback books, Islands of Sina Una, Humblewood, tons and tons of TTRPG stuff. There's music, there's plush, there's animated spell cards, lots of stuff. Use our affiliate link if you're going to be purchasing from them. And then we are also affiliates with Long Dog Dice. Jen from Long Dog Dice makes incredible dice sets, including, there it is, this D6, which has the Sword and Key logo on it. These are the official Horizons Call dice. My lighting does not do them justice, but they are a beautiful, vibrant shade of blue with little flecks of copper in them and white lettering. So check those out, and you can actually pre-order a set for yourself, or Jen just added a bunch of stuff to the store, so you can get your perfect set of dice there and use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase. As you scroll down more than that on Beacons, you can also see links to the podcast Monster Crush. It is a podcast I typically do with my friend LD. We talk about different cryptids, creatures, and miscellaneous monsters from myth and how smoochable they are. It is a monster-loving podcast, so if you love monsters or love monsters, you can check it out wherever podcasts are found. We should have a new episode out later today, so you can check that out. I'll talk about more about that once we get to our calendar part. And scroll down a little bit more on the beacons. You can see links to any open applications that we might have. There are none current, but we will probably have some more late October, early November in preparation for our charity campaign for Project Hope in December. Discord is always going to be the best place to see those first. They go to our socials and the beacons about a day after that. So bear that in mind. I think that's the main stuff on Beacons. Let's take a look at the calendar. The calendar, we have always our Discord events that are updated, and our Google Calendar is also posted there as well, where if you want to be extra about it and you want to add our calendar to yours, you can do that, or you can just look at it. Let's see. Today, Monster Crush should be released later today. Monster Crush did come back from its summer break hiatus last month, but well, I guess earlier this month. But LD, my typical co-host, was in co-cryptozoologist, was a little busy, so I did a couple episodes with my friend Shadow. We just did an episode about unicorns. It came out a couple of weeks back. The episode coming out today is about Lord of the Rings monsters, so check that out. Like I said, should be posted wherever podcasts are found here later. Probably a few hours. Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, I play Baldur's Gate 3 on Gate Night. I play with Shadow and LD. Weird coincidence there. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays. On Fridays, we have movies on the Discord. They're free movie nights. All you gotta do is be around, be a part of it. It is October officially on Friday, so we're gonna be doing some of the more horror-based movies for the month of October. We're not doing our typical, like, 3 movies every Friday sort of thing that I like to do because October's really busy for us this year. But we're going to be doing Death of a Unicorn, the 2025 Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega movie. If you haven't seen it, it's weird. Highly recommend checking it out. Saturday the 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have our next Sword and Tea. I'll be sitting down with Craig Hatler to talk about Shadowlight and Persona. And then the 5th, a week from today, we have a 10 a.m. game of Anik and Eva's Chaotic Playthrough. They'll be playing Mars Colony for that. And then the 6th, that is Monday, is the premiere of Summer in Carcosa. It's a Monster Hearts 2 game being run by Angela, Phoenix 24 Fem. We've got a great cast for that. That will be playing on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time for right around 12-ish weeks. Gate Night will be back on the 7th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then we'll take a couple of weeks off. Monster Crush will also be skipping an episode because the middle of October, again, is very busy. But we'll have more stuff coming to you soon. We have another game premiere coming up on the 19th of October. That is 2 p.m. Pacific time. That'll be on Sundays. And that is Nightmares on the Frontier. It is a game actually playing in, not running, for once in a long time. That's going to be run by Valdrinth, and it is a Wild West fantasy eldritch horror game. So I'm very excited for that. Another great cast. Myself, not necessarily included, but hopefully included in that statement. So lots of great stuff this month. November will be a few more things added, and then December we're going to have a bunch of one-shots and mini campaigns, all for Project Hope. So keep an eye out if you've ever wanted to play in a game on this channel. Thank you again for joining us. We are going to be rating Rakalai, who is typically putting together some really cool Gundam sets, and especially after our discussion today, I feel like Gundam is just on the brain. So mechs in general. So again, thank you to Contagonist. Thank you to you for joining us. We will hopefully see you sooner rather than later. And until then, take care of yourselves, take care of others, and be well.